Hi, Paul Avens here from Team Dynamics, and in this video we're going to be talking about creators. You know, those really big, high energy people on your team that you always go, will they just finish one thing at a time? Guilty as charged, have to be honest. So here's the thing, maybe that's you. Maybe you are a leader and you're great at starting but lousy at finishing. Maybe you want to understand why you do that and also how to kind of compensate for that, who you need around you to help you as a creator to really kind of shift to the next level of performance. Or maybe you're a leader and you're pretty sure that you've got a creator on your team who has all this energy but just cannot stay focused and, you know, gets distracted by the next bright shiny idea or object. Well, if that's you, then we're going to go deep right now into the creator energy and the creator profile, really teach you how to tap into their talents, what frustrates them, what will demotivate them, because trust me, creators can be easily demotivated if they're not managed in the right way. So how do you really kind of get inside their head, understand what they're thinking about, focusing on, and how do you manage them to get them to a higher level of performance? Because really and truly they can add tremendous value to your team, but they can also create complete and utter chaos if they're not managed correctly. All right, so look, let's head over to the visuals and let's go deep into the creator profile, because I know you're going to love it. I'll see you there.
All right, so welcome to the deep dive into the creator profile. Now, as you'll read in the e-guide, the creator profile in your team sits right in the middle of the dynamo energy. So right there at the top of the talent dynamics square. If you're not familiar with it, here's it jumping out at you. So it's right in the middle. It's the purest form of dynamo energy there is, and therefore ends up being the one that tends to drive things with lots of ideas all the time that aren't always necessarily great ideas, but they are an ideas factory. So let's take a look at a kind of an example of one of the clients we've worked with and their profile scores. So as you can see from the report, what this generates here is that we've got the creator primary profile at the top, secondaries, we'll come back to those in a minute in the video where I explain more about them, how they work. Their talent frequencies, which obviously, again, we talk about in the report, but just to recap, there are 4 of them: Dynamo, Blaze, Tempo, Steel, and they're all graded here based on obviously the answers to the profile questionnaire that you give online. Now, as you can see from this profile, this particular leader has, or team member has 60 dynamo, so very high dynamo, very fast to make decisions, get things moving, wants to see really quick results and progress, has a blaze of 24 energy, which means their secondary is star profile, so over this side as you can see. So secondary blaze of 24, so they're very good at selling ideas and concepts to people and getting people to buy in. The challenge for them is that they have a tempo energy of 4, as you can see right at the bottom here. And tempo, as you'll see on the left-hand side, is all about the earth energy. It's all about timing and being very sensory and aware of people's feelings, those kind of things. And they're going to struggle with that. So they will have these great ideas, but they'll also have the idea that it can be done incredibly fast and much faster than in reality it probably can happen, which can frustrate and potentially do damage to other team members. And as a leader, you can really upset the other team members by trying to force things through without a comprehension of the impact it could have on other projects that are going on right here, right now, because of that kind of lower tempo score around timing and being sensory. So you've also got steel energy of 12, which means they come in as a secondary as mechanic at the top here, as you can see. The interesting thing about that will be that they'll be good at fixing things on the go, providing they can fix them really quickly. The challenge will be if they take a long time to fix something, they'll run out of the steel energy and the ability to follow through and finish it. So if it's a quick fix, they're great. They add a lot of value to a team for quick fixes, but if there's a fix that requires a much longer timeline and project management or detail to get it done, they're going to struggle to do that, and it's going to take them right out of their flow. So grab a pen and some paper as we go a bit deeper. So let's talk about how you work with a creator. So what do creators typically need? Well, they need growth and significance. They need to feel that they're moving forward, that they're always developing, and that their ideas are important and recognized. That's important for them, certainly. They need the element of growth. That's the real driver for them. They need to be constantly in a space of coming up with new ideas, but also they need the freedom, I would suggest, to be able to create new ideas and have those ideas. Doesn't mean you need to implement them all, but you need to give them the freedom to be able to do that. How do you talk to them? So if they're on your team, how do you actually talk to them as a leader? How do you communicate with them if they're on your team? How do you communicate with them if you're in a team with a creator? So let's talk about that. Well, visually, very quickly, high levels, and with lots of energy. And I would also suggest that you're pretty short and succinct and to the point, because their attention spans tend to wander fairly quickly. So you want to be quick on that. What questions they ask? Well, they actually ask the what question. They're all about what's next, what's the next idea, what can we do to get this started, what can I get involved with next. They're very much in that space of speed in terms of implementation. So it's how do they jump in there, how do they get things going. So they're all going, oh, what's going on, or what can I do to get involved with this, or what are you doing on this project? They're curious. They're genuinely really kind of curious because they're trying to see if where their next idea might come from. And so they do tend to ask that question a lot, which is a good way to spot them and identify them. Obviously, you don't want to try and guess who a creator might be on your team. That's important. You want to use the profiling tool to make sure you get it right, because some of these are very close, and as we say, the frequencies are much more important than the labels, which is a key thing. How do you communicate with them? Well, big picture first. Take them out to the future. Don't give them detail initially. Give them the big picture. Talk about the future. Sell them on visions of success when they take action, actually move, and make it all about them as a creator, and give them the opportunity to contribute to whatever you're doing. So go to them for ideas, get their buy-in. If you're a leader who is a creator, remember you're going to be big picture first. You're going to be thinking about the future, and you're going to be great at selling visions to people. But if you've got people on your team who need more detail, as in some of the other profiles we talk about in the videos and on this leadership report, then the challenge is going to be that for them, that'll be really difficult to kind of get your vision and come into that kind of contact. But if you're communicating with someone on your team who's a creator, make sure you give them the big picture first to get them excited before you go drilling down into the next steps of what they might need to do. Best kind of job roles for a creator in a team. Typically, they're really good at things like strategic planning, blue sky thinking. They're good at new business sort of sales, where they have to be creative, think on their feet, spur of the moment type things. They're good at speaking in publicly. Typically, if they have a secondary profile that's a star, they're good at kind of speaking and getting their ideas out there. They're also really good at product development and coming up with new ideas. And I would say they're also really good at marketing from a creative standpoint process. So if you're looking for things like creative marketing ideas, campaigns, or brand ideas, things like that, they're particularly good at coming up with those. Now, important to understand what will generate stress for them as a creator. If you've got a creator in your team as a leader, what generates stress? And if you are a creator who's also a leader, you may recognize some of these. So very much things that involve routine and repetitive tasks. Creators get very bored, as I mentioned earlier, very quickly. So for them, it's important that you break that routine. You don't put them in a space where they're doing something day in, day out that is the same, because that's just going to kind of create stress, but also they'll start looking for that variety, which is a big driver for them in creativity. And that can be either to disrupt, to create that creativity, the team, or it will be potentially to go look for other projects or even indeed other roles or other jobs. So if you do that, they do tend to leave fairly quickly because they want the next great opportunity. Detailed of work for long periods of time, so delving into things like spreadsheets and things like that over a long period of time is also quite challenging for them. So you want to make sure that they're not spending lots of time on that. Project management. If you think about the profile I showed you a few minutes ago, they had a tempo energy of 4. So think about how that would manifest itself and show up if you're asking them to project manage people with timelines and deadlines that need to be delivered on time. Actually, for them, that's a real challenge, and that's going to cause a lot of stress for them. Now, it's not to say they can't do it. I'm just going to suggest that as a leader, you want to look at your team and go, is that really the best thing I should be doing with my creator? Now, sometimes in a team, you have to have the creator help out with things like project management, but just recognize if you're coaching them and developing them that they will find that very stressful. And creators tend to express their stress, so they will make sure that everyone else around them knows that it's particularly stressful. Don't have them doing things like proofreading. They genuinely don't read very well. They read very fast, but they don't read very well. My wife is regularly saying to me, I'm a creator, that I never read menus properly and regularly order food that I didn't think I had ordered because I hadn't read all the way to the end of the menu description. Generally, they're not great at finances because, again, the attention to detail is lacking, and they struggle with being on time because they're living in the future, not in the present. And therefore, for them, being on time with things is a real challenge. So just be aware of those things. We mentioned earlier about secondary profiles. Again, massively important. And when we debrief with you and we go through your profile, it's really important to understand your secondary profiles and how they show up. As I said before, within any profile, this is a different creator. You'll see when we do our certification training and take people through this in real depth over 2 days, it's important to understand that the percentages, the frequencies are far more important than the labels, because this is a creator very, label-wise in terms of the same I showed you earlier. However, very different in terms of some of the ones that can show up. So it's important. These are very different. You'll see different people in different times. So it's just interesting to understand, how they kind of show up with different numbers. This one actually is the same one as before, but there are very different ones, and I'll show you a different one in a moment. So the secondaries are the star and the mechanic, as you can see, and again, really important here just to understand that means that it's a bit like stabilizers on a bicycle, or Roger Hamilton refers to it as it's a bit like wings. It's like the things that you need to fly. You need to be able to do all three really well. I tend to use stabilizers because I found clients really relate to that, and when we train them we explain that, because you can use your star profile, for example, so you can go out, sell the big ideas, have the big ideas, and then sell the big ideas, communicate the ideas. And you can go out and do that. But you really wouldn't want to do it every day. Whereas a pure star would want to be on stage every day, talking to people and in the spotlight. Creators are happy to go into the spotlight to launch a particular product, or to get an idea out there, or to share an idea. They're happy to get into the spotlight for that. But they wouldn't want to be there all the time, because it would eventually exhaust them. Now, same with the mechanic. They're very good at fixing things, getting stuck in, improving things. But again, they'd do that for a while, but that steel energy would catch up with them after a while, and they would find that very hard, and they'd want to get back to talking about something new once they'd feel they'd made the difference and the impact. So hopefully that makes sense and you kind of resonate with that. Just to go a bit deeper, so who do you need around you? So if you are a creator leader and you're watching this video and going, oh, this so sounds like me, I'm definitely this type of leader, obviously it's important for you to understand who you need around you. So as a creator, we've already said how good you are at the visionary side of things. The main and most important thing is you're going to need a supporter around you, or supporters, right? Now, obviously, creators need supporters. Why do they need supporters? Well, for the simple reason that they're able to pass ideas off, their ideas, and give them to supporters who will take those ideas and run with it. As it says, they love implementing plans, they're great, and they know who to get involved in the project. So you go, as a creator, you go to a supporter, because supporters will be able to go, okay, who do I need on the team? Who do we need to get that job done? And they'll have this massive connection with people and be able to get them to buy into delivering what you want done as a creator in terms of your project. So they'll know, they're very good at making sure that they are fundamentally the managers on your teams. They're very good at managing people, making sure you get the right people involved in the right projects. So brilliant at trust and rapport. And they will always put clients and the teams first, whereas creators tend to put getting the idea out there, or the significance they want for coming up with the next great idea first, as opposed to people first. So it's important for creators to hand that off to supporters, and certainly every client we've worked with, when the creators have started to build a team around them and had supporters they could hand things off to, you see the amount of projects that get actually driven through and finished really accelerate, and the results the team get significantly jump. Now, first up, supporters. Next up, what you need on the team is an accumulator. Now, why do you need on these are your kind of close, what I call kind of your inner circle, kind of team dynamics, your inner power team, if you like, as a creator. You'll need an accumulator, because an accumulator will bring that steel energy and that tempo energy, as you can see in the graphic, to the creator. They're brilliant. Obviously, creators can rely on them for going and getting all the details. So if creators have ideas, accumulators can go do all the research and the details and map out exactly what needs to happen step by step, and work really well with supporters in terms of turning the plans and working with getting the plans implemented with the supporters and doing that research. They can be seen as more pessimistic than optimistic by creators especially, and that's because they'll ask detail-orientated questions and really want to know how it's all going to work. But they are really good to have on your team, especially if they're in charge of things like finances, because they tend to hang on to the money that the creators generate with their next great latest project or idea or venture. Otherwise, creators will find another good idea to spend it on or get moving and use it, and that's a challenge. So you need accumulators to make sure that these ideas that get implemented by creators actually pay dividends for the business and keep that money in the business for the long term. Remember, it's really important that that it's not a label or an excuse. So if you're called a creator, you can't say, "Well, I'm just no good at this, this, or this because I'm a creator." But it does help you build trust and tolerance with your team. Your team become more tolerant of you because they understand how you operate. So I said earlier, there's a difference, and it's not a label. So if you look at this creator profile, this is a creator style mechanic again, but look at the numbers, slightly different. This particular person is more of a creator mechanic than a creator star in terms of how they put together. So if you look, the mechanic comes up first, 52% dynamo, but 28% steel. So they will really focus on creatively fixing things, and they'll probably be at some of their best when they're taking ideas and improving them, and sometimes working with other people collaboratively for their ideas, or they get an idea on how to improve an existing product that somebody else, even a competitor, may have created. They'll see a way to take it and make it far better. Again, their challenge will be the tempo energy of actually getting things done and finished. Creators with strong mechanics can hang on to things sometimes a little bit too long rather than getting it implemented on time. And obviously they're secondary at the start. Now this particular profile, this star would really drain them if they were moving out, because their blaze energy is only 12. So if this person was trying to get out there and sell their ideas to people, it would really drain their energy quite quickly, and they would find that fatiguing. So to go out and do a meeting with lots of people, or to go out and speak in front of a group, they can do it absolutely, but they'd find that quite challenging, quite a stretch, and they can redo it. Again, without a supporter, you can see with a blaze score of 12, without a supporter on your inner circle power team, this creator is going to struggle to get ideas implemented or to get people in this team bought into the idea. So absolutely critical that this leader would have a supporter around them. Otherwise, they're going to find it very difficult to hit that high level of performance that we talk about in high level performing teams. So very just quick reminder, obviously creators, the ideas person, that dynamo, they're great at bringing new products. They tend to kick things off and get quite a lot of energy around all that, but they need that supporter to pass it to, who's the manager on the team, and then down to the accumulator, who can do all the research and the fight and hang on to the money, because accumulators have secondaries of lords. So as you can see, if you look at the overall team role, creators driving it forward, getting stuff moving, handing it to the managers, to supporters to get it done, and working with the accumulators to make sure that we have all the detail mapped out and we hang on to the money, which is that entire model of how that really works. I thought I'd just kind of share with you, as we finish on this, a quick story that I thought would really kind of bring this to life for you. So this is a client of ours, Navtech Radar, a company really built on innovation. They're very innovative in the radar technology space, won many awards, and indeed awards for export as well. When we went in and consulted with them and started training them, they got a very big team of about 50. But they'd hit a kind of revenue challenge, or they'd hit a challenge in terms of the business wasn't growing, and it was really down to a lack of new products coming through. They were just never getting done and finished. So initially we consulted and trained with the board. This was the leadership board, and what became really apparent, as you'll see, is that you've got dynamo energy, tempo energy, steel. There was no real supporter energy in here, so the ideas weren't getting out of the board very well into the overall team. And weren't getting out to the market because there was no one out there to broadcast it and get them out there and get the team bought in. But also the MD here was spending 10% of his entire time generating new products, and he was the ideas man. He was actually the person who'd come up with all the new products for the business, and because he'd become so operationally focused as the business had got bigger and bigger, the ideas that he'd love to come up with, he just was never getting space to express them, and in fact talked about being in flow less than 10% of the time in terms of doing what he loved to do as a creator. So the board rearranged, and we worked with them to rearrange his diary, roles and responsibilities, gave the operations steels, the operation director with this high level steel, much more involvement, as you can see from the graph and the photograph, spent time with them reorganising their organisational chart to get more people in flow. That led the MD to be able to spend far more time, about 60% of his week, generating new ideas for new products, talking to customers and coming up with new products. And then obviously we helped them to profile their entire team. This is in fact their sales team, to make sure that we had their international global sales team selling the right products and the right people, and in the right way. And the result of that was that the ideas he was able to generate, we were able to get out into the market and sell and export. The business got back into growth and generated significant revenues off the back of just changing the way the team started to operate. In fact, they profiled every single person in their team and use it in their recruitment going forward, but absolutely as a development tool, really powerful. So That's what happens if a creator gets sucked out of flow. The ideas stop coming through the business, and if you're a technology or if you're a business that relies on innovation, as every business needs innovation, as there's two main functions in a business: marketing and innovation. And innovation obviously comes pretty much from the profile like the creator. And without that you can hit stagnant growth. You start becoming more stagnant. So that's just a quick story. Obviously, this is obviously their results are down to them and the effort they put in. But as you'll see, the tool, what we did with Team Dynamics when we went in, was we took the first step in that, which was to get everyone to understand their talents, their roles they should be doing, and to build high level of trust and transparency within the team, so that people started to be honest with where they were stuck, where they needed support, and how they could perform at a higher level by getting more into flow. The results of which was significant growth, and I think, in fact, a year after we started working with them, they won another award for their new products that they started to export in the industry. So, global brand based here in the UK, but sells all over the world. So hopefully that gives you a good example of that, and you've got lots of notes about how the creator profile kind of works. So with that, I'm going to hand back to the studio. So over to the studio.
All right, so welcome back from the deep dive into the creators. Did you learn a lot? Did you recognize a lot? Maybe you resonated a lot with that. Maybe you thought, oh, so me. I know the first time I learned about the creator energy, it explained exactly why I had started so many businesses, got them up and running, and then got bored with them and gone and started another one. So it completely explained large parts of my career and life. And maybe it did that for you. Or maybe you looked at it and went, yeah, this isn't me, but I think it might be somebody on my team actually who does all of those things. Well, if you'd like to find out for sure, then on this page we've got a great opportunity for you. By clicking the button below, you're going to be able to actually take a profile yourself, or have one of your team take a profile and get an unbelievable opportunity for a free debrief with one of my trained team. In this 45 to 60 minute conversation, they'll go very quickly through your profile, but they'll also explain how to really kind of shift your level to a higher performance in terms of, how to work better, how to focus more, and the kind of things that you may do as a creator that actually causes destruction and damage around to the rest of the team, and how to minimize that negative impact. So if you'd like to find out more about creators, and maybe find out if you really are one, perhaps, or you think you might not be, but you're not sure, then click the button below, grab this opportunity to have your profile and a debrief with one of my trainers, because I really do know it's going to shift your future. It's going to give you the ability to speed up your results and ultimately shift you to the next level. So grab that opportunity and that gift right now. Click the button below. I'll see you soon.